Previously on Combat School, Mike Company rallies for its last training battle before Afghanistan.
Orders in the air!
A final head-to-head showdown with the mock Taliban.
Well, one, yes, that's your objective, correct.
One last chance for soldiers to learn from their mistakes.
I f***ed up. I killed 2 of my guys.
9 months of the world's most high-tech counterinsurgency training are over.
Attention!
You will win every time.
They ship out.
About as ready as it's going to be there right now.
I'm ready to go.
Ready to take the biggest step of all. From combat rookie to full-fledged warrior. In a war zone, there's no such thing as normal. Every village, every road, everywhere is a potential death trap. It's here that Captain John Cox and the soldiers of 1 Platoon Mike Company will live and fight for the next 6 months.
So it's our first drive through Kandahar City. How's everybody feel? Wow. Pretty sweet.
They've trained hard for this. They think they're prepared.
I want to get up and see. Let me out.
But this place will test them in ways their training could not. Their mission: push Taliban insurgents out of this volatile region. In the month before 1 Platoon left for Afghanistan, 7 Canadian soldiers died doing this job. They've left the security of Kandahar airfield. They're arriving at a patrol base 40 kilometers southwest of Kandahar, where the enemy is right outside the wire.
Yeah, we're eager. Very eager.
It's not fun and games anymore. It's the real thing.
The platoon's 25-year-old commander may be a combat rookie, but he knows what they're in for.
300 meters outside that wire from where we're standing right now, there's guys that want to kill us. And we're going to go out there and fight them. And that's the reality that we now live in.
Mike Company's officer commanding, Major Cale Oberworth, reminds them. They're now in the enemy's sights, 24/7.
It's the horrible truth on the ground. As soon as you leave the wire, people are watching you. They're sending phone messages, text messages. We'll never surprise them. These people, the insurgents, we'll call them, they live here. They aren't transients. They're Afghans who don't want us here.
All hell's gonna break loose.
There are people here trying to kill you. Unlike training, when you're a simulated casualty or simulated dead, you really are wounded here or you really are dead.
The enemy will make its point before the night is over.
Yeah, I'll go put the tracer.
The base is under attack.
Stand here, guys.
First ones again on scene. 0, this is 1 contact. 2 times mortar rounds fired towards the camp.
We doing it, man?
No, not yet, sir. Roger, all of them.
Oberworth and some of his men hole up in the base command post. Up on the hill, in the base observation post, they spot something. It might be the attackers.
observing 4 times first in that greater area.
Current SITREP, we have identified suspicious activity in the general south-southwest direction.
Before firing back, Mike Company needs to confirm that these men are behind the rocket strikes.
On Roger, still haven't identified any weapons over.
The next report is not the intel Oberworth is hoping for.
Okay, so I needed a general cardinal direction where you lost sight of them.
The suspects have slipped away.
They've fired and scurried away. They're trying not to get hurt themselves. So we're gonna stand down now and we'll get them next time.
Then, a sign that it might not be over after all.
What are they doing? They're digging their irrigation ditch or something?
I don't see one. I see one time individual on the road, and there does appear to be movement on the road, but I can't discern it.
They got 1,500 meters.
1,500 meters from the base, someone appears to be digging by the road. Oberworth's hunch? It's an insurgent planting a roadside bomb.
On the road, they think he's digging, they're not sure.
It's my assessment right now that the quote-unquote attack that we just endured might have been a bit of diversion to draw our attention to the south while they put something in the road in the north.
In training, Oberworth was the master of diversionary tactics designed to fool the enemy. Now, the insurgents may be turning the tables. In a few hours, Oberworth will find out if his hunch is right. And one platoon will head outside the base and find out the enemy is ready and waiting for them. After a night shattered by a mortar attack, morning brings news. Mike Company's officer commanding, Cale Oberworth, was right. The mortar hit was just a diversion, so insurgents could plant a roadside bomb.
Come on, guys, that's why we use the danger pay. All right.
Their allies, the Afghan National Army, made the discovery during an early morning patrol. More proof for Captain Cox that the enemy is laying traps right where he and his platoon will soon be headed. The soldiers will head into the danger zone alone and on foot.
I want them to get their feet on the ground, get used to the area, get into a fight so we can move forward.
Yep, little battle prep.
The further out you get, the more chances you have of getting contact with the enemy. Nothing is ever secure.
Hey, situation. Enemy. Okay, there's no change from the enemy situation. The locals have indicated to us that they have never seen the Taliban. I don't necessarily believe them at this point, but we all know that they are operating within this area. It's not a secret to any of us.
Okay, let's go, guys, and start getting marshaled here.
This foot patrol is a foray into real danger, outside the wire, beyond the relative security of the base. The mission: talk to the villagers and suss out where the bad guys are hiding.
This is it. Game on.
Are you scared?
Always a little anxious, yeah. I mean, this is our first time actually getting out on a foot patrol. I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Nervous? It's gonna be the roughest 4 hours of my life.
From here on, the platoon's second in command, Warrant Officer Bruce Rodenizer, will step back a bit.
My job is to get the troops here. Now they're here. I really don't have a job. I like it.
Now, responsibility for their success and survival is in the hands of Captain Cox.
One left there.
The platoon, takes its first steps into Taliban territory. For the next 6 kilometers, their training will be their only protection. It's 40 degrees, and they're loaded down with nearly half their weight in gear.
It is even worse than I thought it would be, actually. You know, it's when you're wearing this much kit, just the smallest movements are that much more difficult, right? Walking through sand, and a small hill feels like a big hill. And
how come people in movies always make this shit look so easy?
How you doing? Good.
Again and again, children emerge, follow one platoon, then stop. Maybe it's just curiosity, but children are sometimes used as spies by insurgents. The soldiers are on edge. They push forward.
Come down, don't try. Okay, you guys, stay right here. Cows.
Apparently the cows just kind of stampeded us there.
One platoon enters the village. Adult men appear.
I got this guy.
Captain Cox notices some of them signaling. Cox asks a local farmer about Taliban activity.
So the Taliban come through here and plant bombs in the road, right?
They bring IDs and weapons. They put hide.
Okay.
Cox learns that the Taliban frequently visit this village.
Okay,
sir.
That car horn puts every soldier on high alert. Insurgents have used them in the past to signal an attack.
One over.
Master Corporal Chad Porter spots a group of men on the move.
We got movement of 4 guys over here.
Okay. We've just heard some car horns honking, and we see movement of 4 fighting-age males to our northeast over.
Okay. Where are they at now? Okay, reference Grey Putt to my 12.
Yeah.
They moved west.
Okay.
I lost sight of them once they moved behind the trees.
Okay.
C6 up here.
Cox changes his route, ordering a machine gunner to cover them.
Okay, bro, we can move now.
But as they move out, Cox receives intelligence. His new path home is leading them directly into a Taliban ambush.
If they are able to sneak in with an anti-armor weapon, i.e. RPG or recoilless rifle, they will attempt to engage coalition forces with that weapon system and concurrently attack from the west.
The platoon is familiar with the consequences of an ambush. They trained for it back in Fort Bliss.
Contact left side, ambush, over. Where are you?
We're good, sir?
Yeah.
All right.
Cox decides to reroute his soldiers again to avoid the attack.
Okay, check.
But around here, no path is safe. they have to keep their guard up. As they close in on home base, it gets harder and harder to stay focused. The heat and the adrenaline rush have completely drained them.
Tired. A little tired. Chip's a little tired. Like, some things don't change.
Now, too exhausted to stand or even speak. They'd better hope they get their energy back. They outwitted the enemy today. Next time, they won't be as lucky.
A contact at one time with a mortar round.
About 6 or 7 guys moving tactically through the grape fields.
And one of them's running.
When the only thing between you and enemy insurgents is your gun, there's no such thing as too much target practice. The soldiers of 1 Platoon Mike Company are gearing up for a major push into a deadly Taliban stronghold.
They say Badlands, so not that it's not bad all around here, but that's the word on the street.
A few hundred meters from the base, there's an imaginary line in the sand. The military calls it the 2-9 Easting. Other troops who've tried to cross it have been met head-on by the enemy. Major Oberworth's strategy: cross the 2-9 Easting. Show the enemy his soldiers are not afraid to make the first move, or to take on the Taliban in their own backyard.
Everything we do past the 2-9 Easting forces the enemy to react to us, as opposed to us sitting here waiting to react to them. And that's good. That's going to help us to win the war.
That line is where the game really begins. If we're going that way and looking for a fight, we're going to find one over there.
Captain Cox has yet to feel the heat of enemy fire. But a near ambush during 1 Platoon's foot patrol 3 days ago.
Okay, sir. We got movement of 4 guys over here. Okay.
Has made it personal for them all. The soldiers are in a fighting mood.
We're gonna be passing enemy lines. So sweet. I'm pumped. I'm really, really pumped.
Okay, situation, enemy. A surge of 40 insurgent fighters has the expressed intention to enhance or step up the number of attacks. That's why we're going in here. We're not backing down.
And they'll have help from some heavy-hitting assets. 40 kilometers away at Kandahar Airfield, inside the Tactical Nerve Center, Oberworth's bosses are assembling an impressive arsenal.
We got a lot of overhead.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The battle group commander, Lieutenant Colonel Roger Barrett, has ordered up heavily armed helicopters and F-16 fighter jets. A planned show of force to shake up the enemy right before 1 Platoon's arrival. Headquarters also has a fleet of unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, gathering intelligence on the target area.
We'll follow these guys for a bit, find out whether they're actually doing anything suspicious.
During the mission, these UAVs will operate like eyes in the sky, transmitting in real time.
We will be watching and analyzing that information to see how the insurgents react and move.
Southwest of headquarters at Mike Company's base, a set of 122mm howitzers will round out the mission's show of force. Manned by their allies, the Afghan National Army. Oberworth is also counting on the ANA to work in tandem with his soldiers during the mission itself.
It's gonna be good.
Everybody back home has been calling me. My prayers are with you. I'm praying for you. And I tell them thank you very much, but you should pray for the other guy.
It's good. I like that.
The platoon heads out in broad daylight. Major Oberworth wants the insurgent spies to see them and spread the word. Oberworth's plan: head east to fool the enemy. Then, overnight, double back. Cross the 29 Easting line into a village codenamed Objective Sword and surprise the Taliban at their own doorstep. The soldiers spill into the desert as if they're bunking down for the night.
Vehicles will be shut down, and let's maintain a security presence until we kick off.
2 a.m. Mike Company rolls back the way it came. By daybreak, they'll have crossed the notorious 29 Easting and be poised for an attack. The entire plan depends on catching the insurgents off guard. But one platoon is going to be met with a nasty surprise of its own.
Look out, telegram!
Overnight, the soldiers of one platoon have crossed the infamous 29 Easting, the imaginary line that marks the heart of Taliban turf. They're ready to launch a surprise sweep into a suspected enemy stronghold. A village where Major Oberworth hopes to catch insurgents off guard. Turns out, he's in for a surprise.
Right there, look.
It appears that the village has been tipped off that there's trouble brewing. Oberworth alerts his soldiers back at the command post.
1, this is 1-9. They do seem very interested in getting out of here.
They must know there's something in there, and as such, we need to be ready to deal with it.
Headquarters orders armed helicopters and every available UAV to get eyes on the village. They detect insurgents moving into position.
About 6 or 7 guys moving tactically through the grape fields and then into the tree lines. We followed 4 guys, and they're holed up in this compound.
Oberworth's plan is ruined, but he's not about to back off. The show of force, designed to rattle the insurgents, gets underway. From Mike Company's base, their allies in the Afghan National Army launch howitzer shells. They pound the outskirts of the village. As planned, another group of Afghan Army soldiers joins Captain Cox and one platoon. They move into the village together.
I'm going to put the entire platoon on the left flank of the ANA. So we're going to lead with Alpha. We'll move up to that wall, take a look. Once it's clear, we'll push up Charlie, and then we'll move from there.
Okay. They leave their light armored vehicles outside the village, along with another platoon for backup in case of trouble. Cox's strategy. One section of the platoon advances, securing an area ahead. Once it's covered, another section leapfrogs past to secure the next area, sweeping through the maze of compounds that makes up this village.
A 1-1 Charlie. A&A is searching individuals as we're going through. Over.
As the Afghan army searches civilians, one platoon provides cover.
Keep your spacing.
Sam, yeah, there's a woman in that compound right there.
Take a look up on the roofs, okay? Alleyways, doorways. Keep a good eye out.
Overhead, aerial surveillance reveals the insurgents are repositioning.
So there's 3 of them. I think they were all moving.
They're down roughly about here.
Where are they going? Let's get out in the open, boys.
But the enemy has its own plans. A mortar attack, aimed at the soldiers' vehicles on the outskirts of the village. The insurgents miss their target.
A contact, a one-time mortar round, the mortar impacted roughly 30 meters to my south.
Within seconds, enemy gunfire.
On the left!
Break. 1-4, it's 1-1, there's contact waiting.
1 on a Roger, have you got eyes on where you believe that small arms fire came from over?
Currently, friendly forces are being engaged from 2 separate locations. Do you have any eyes on any weapons in those locations over?
She's got 6 to 7 here.
Copy that. Okay.
And one of them's running. All on ass.
So far, the enemy's aim has been off, but it's about to get better.
Contact! What do you got?
The rocket-propelled grenade skims right over their heads.
John!
Sir?
We need strong flank security on the right-hand side, okay?
Okay, sir.
Headquarters orders the choppers to keep their guns pointed right at the village.
We'll use the Banshees to define Block 6.
So that was a close one with the RPG shot. It flew right over our heads. Yeah. This is it.
The close call has spooked the rookies. They hug the walls instead of providing cover for their comrades. Cox needs his platoon to gather its courage and orders his sergeants to make it happen.
Okay, what's gonna happen is we're gonna start pushing that way towards that contact. They're about 300 meters.
Yeah.
They need to go in and clear that way.
Okay, perfect. Gilly, you and Hilson, come here.
The sergeants pass Cox's orders to the rookies.
Go in there and clear that, okay?
J10, BM, up.
Come on, pop your head out so I could shoot you.
Confidence is up. One platoon pushes through the village, but the insurgents have slipped away.
We're here. We came for a fight and they ran away. Cowards. Cowards.
Bravo. You just go up this way to your vehicle.
Cox isn't happy his soldiers hesitated. He reminds his experienced sergeants, keep a grip on those combat rookies.
You're getting lazy as commanders to let that happen. I know as soon as those RPGs started coming over, we got a little scared. You could see it because everyone started hugging to the walls again. We got to go forward from that. We can't shrink away. We got to step into it and face the danger, not run away from it. And they're going to look to you for that.
One platoon wavered today, but they did recover quickly. Platoon veterans figure it's a sign the rookies' training is kicking in.
I think this today kind of set the tone for a platoon, and it's got everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Into the game now.
They'd better be in the game, with those combat jitters conquered.
Let's go. Get it.
Because next time they come in contact with the enemy,
Contact! Okay. Let's go! Let's go, brother!
it will be in a firefight where hesitation can kill.
All right, here's our transport on the way to Zangabad. Go to some serious up. Yeah.
The soldiers of 1 Platoon Mike Company have yet to prove themselves in a real firefight. Chances are, this ride will change that.
Off we go, fellas.
They're headed for Zangabad, in the heart of Afghanistan's deadly Panjwai district. They approach by air because the road below is riddled with bombs. Their destination is so dangerous, it's off limits to the camera crew. This video is the soldiers' own. Just 8 kilometers from Mike Company's base, war has isolated this small, crude outpost. It will be home to 1 platoon for the next 3 weeks.
So there's the choppers, just dropping off the last bit of people here. And myself and the platoon commander, the first one's in. I'm just manning the south tower right now.
For the past year, it's been a losing battle trying to keep the enemy out of this area. The evidence of it is just meters outside the walls.
This here is remnants of an old IED strike. That's what an IED can do to a vehicle. Not very forgiving. This is the second deadliest road in the world, according to who, I don't know. But we won't travel it because it would be more or less suicide.
And this is going to be the guided tour of Zangabad. So I'm at the front gate now. Here's the ammo bunker. There's a lot of munitions in there. There's the mortar pit. And all the sea cans that we live in. They're armored against mortars, and they got air conditioners and heaters in them, so it's pretty sweet.
This place is pimp. Persian carpets.
So what do you think of Zangabad, man?
Vacation. Taliban, they're on vacation too, man. No threat.
Usually, winter is the Taliban slow season.
So you guys see anything today, really, other than kids?
Not this year. 2 shots whistle overhead. Within seconds, 1 platoon is ready to return fire. But heavy brush around the camp makes it tough to see who's firing on them.
Hold on!
Captain Cox calls for airborne surveillance. Overhead, an unmanned aerial vehicle tracks a man on a bike.
And our friend the bicyclist making pretty good time.
But they're not sure he's the one responsible for the attack.
It's a lot of preparation for nothing.
They'll later learn it wasn't an attack. It was a test.
It's the 2008 Zangabad, Afghanistan.
Everyone's enjoying their post-breakfast lounge.
When it's quiet like this, it's not relaxing. It's unnerving.
You looking at anything in particular there, Mullins?
Yeah, I saw a guy walking out there, but I lost behind the wall there.
Contact! Let's go!
An enemy mortar slams into a field just south of the outpost.
Hey, sir! We get on the wall!
The insurgents are just 300 meters from one platoon. Captain Cox needs to zero in on the enemy's location so he can concentrate his own firepower. Within seconds, the platoon identifies at least 8 insurgents.
Stand by!
The enemy's AK-47s may be no match for one platoon's big guns. But they're not backing down. And now they've also holed up in a nearby grape hut. What Cox does next will be a test of his soldiers' ability to react and respond as a unit. They've done it countless times in training. But in the heat of their first real battle, it's something else altogether. Cox orders them to pin down the enemy. And then unload.
Hey, mortar! Lay on the gas!
Zangabad, right 100, fire for effect, over.
Fire for effect! Fire for effect! Now, get that on! Let's go! Fire!
The battle rages for half an hour.
Beat that!
Then, the enemy's gunfire suddenly stops.
It's over.
1-9 Alpha, this is Zangabad. It appears enemy fire has ceased at this time. All pers okay, over.
Today was a major turning point for the soldiers of one platoon. They've survived their first firefight. Soldiers call it a tick. Troops in contact.
Good time. That grape hut, that grape field out there, that thing close.
We needed that though.
The enemy has retreated, but just for now.
Right there, sitting on top of the desert, staring at us. It's that little speck right there. That's where they've been watching us too.
The soldiers are trained never to give in. They now know the enemy won't either. For the soldiers of Mike Company, it's going to be a long deployment. The Taliban has launched its fiercest winter offensive ever. The soldiers of one platoon have had just a taste of the insurgents' aggression and ruthlessness. Months of training in North America made them confident that they could take on anyone and win.
Right side! I'll move up!
Beautiful day in the regiment.
But there's a lesson that training can't teach. How to prepare yourself for that first time on enemy turf when you know you're being watched.
The first time I stepped on the ground outside the wire, I was like walking on eggshells. I was really tentative about my steps, thinking every step is going to be boom, 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 but I just overanalyzed it.
For some, the moment of truth came on that first foot patrol.
When we left the gate there, we're leaving the wire, and as soon as we were out of range, I couldn't see the hilltop anymore. Kind of clicked in my head, and I'm like, all right, we're out here. It's just our platoon. It's just the guys that I've trained with for a year and a half. I'm like, take a shot at me. Let's see what you got.
Corporal Miranda recalls how he felt as the platoon geared up for its first confrontation.
When we first got out of the lab there, right next to the village, this is it, the real thing. We're entering Taliban territory. Of course, man, you're gonna get nervous. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how the day's gonna end.
Private Jeremy Hilson's view of the world changed in an instant. That rocket-propelled grenade whizzed right over his head.
We were in position, then you could just hear the RPG get fired. At that point, it was just that whole, like, we're in contact now.
The live round landed in Hilson's comfort zone and shattered it for good.
It's changed me as far as my attitude towards security and kind of doing my job. Before it was doing my job, now it's kind of a survival thing. And you kind of have to take your preparedness to do the job and turn it up a couple of notches so that you're able to go home at the end of the tour.
In training battles back home, they were tested against the most skillful opponents.
Get ready to fight, get ready to fight.
But one thing rookies can't be sure of: will they be able to pull the trigger here? What they've seen since they got to Afghanistan has convinced them they can.
These guys want us dead so badly that they're willing to drop mortar bombs on us when there are women and children kicking around. And that just doesn't seem right to me. I've got no problem with going after them.
I used to think, well, no one really wants to kill anyone. We don't want to kill people. We're just prepared to do it if it happens. But now I think, we are looking for it. And you know what? These are bad people that are trying to kill us, and they're messing up their own civilians. So this has got to stop.
Of all the soldiers, it's the platoon's commander who's changed the most. From a promising but inexperienced young officer to a leader his soldiers respect.
I think the first day I showed up with the platoon, I was, there's a bit of a deer in the headlights, like, okay, this is really it. These are real soldiers, they're trained, and we can actually go out and start doing stuff. And it was a great feeling.
He was really shy. It was kind of funny. We would poke jokes at him and everything, and he would, take it. But now, he's one of us.
We're gonna do it one more.
And he's dashing out the jokes, and we're taking it.
60.
All the way down. He's a good captain. He's an awesome leader. I trust him with my life, for sure, yeah.
Warrant Officer Bruce Rodenizer spent months showing the rookies the ropes.
Need a helmet on your heads. Get it on.
In Afghanistan, Rhodey stepped back a bit to let them hit their own stride. It'll help toughen them for the battles ahead.
Even though they're operational now, like I said, yes, they could get hit in a tick, they could get ambushed, they could get rocketed, they could get a grenade blown. You could lose half the patrol.
Nobody understands that better than the man who successfully led the entire company through its first weeks of combat.
This is a tricky war. This is a tricky war, but I think, again, if we look at being honest with ourselves and honest with the public, soldiers are meant to fight wars and wars are meant to be won. So while we're here, that's got to be our focus, is to win the war. And these soldiers, you can see in their eyes when we roll outside the wire, that's why they're here. They want to defeat the enemy, and that's great. That means that our training is validated.
Their training is quickly turning into experience. In one 31-hour period, the platoon will survive 4 firefights in a row. The rookies' initiation is over. But in this dirty desert war, the enemy will continue to test them every step of the way.